Okay, so after we get out of our while loop, our tags array contains all the different tags in our database, and it contains the tag ID, the tag name, and the total number of times the tag has been used. And then the last thing we want to do here is we want to sort the tags. And in our case, we don't want to sort them. If you notice, if you go back to phpMyAdmin, it automatically sorts things by tag ID in this particular case. Once you work with the database a bit more, I'm not totally sure if it's going to keep that order or not. However, we want to make sure we order by tag. We want to order alphabetically by tag. And because we have an array of arrays, if you'll notice, the tags is an array, and each, let me try to display this. So for example, it's an array, and then within this array we have an array that contains ID, name, and total. So we have an array of arrays, and obviously there can be multiple, like so. To be able to sort these, we're going to use the usort function. And if you want to look it up on the php.net manual, it'll go down. It allows us to input the array that we want to sort and also the function that we want to use to sort it. So we can create this function ourselves. So I'm going to usort, and I'm going to pass in this tags. And then for the second piece of information, if I pass in just the name, so I'll just put a name for now, what it's going to do is it's going to look for the function called name, and it's going to sort the tags variable by the function called name. However, it's a little bit complicated because this name refers to a general PHP function that we create, not a function that exists within our object. So if we want to access a function that exists within the object, we have to actually pass it an array. And this array will contain two pieces of information. It's going to contain the object. In this case, it's going to be tagcloud model. Excuse me, actually this probably I should call this the class specifically. And then I'm going to add a comma, and then finally the function that we want to use. I'm going to call mine compare names, like so, and then I'm going to finish this off. So that's set. And now within the utility function section, just below here, I'm going to create function compare names. And this function, we need to pass in two variables. I'm going to pass in A and B. That's what we're comparing. And again, if you go back to the php.net manual, it explains all this. And the third example, I believe, there we go, explains how to use usort and use a member function within an object. So like I said, it's passing an array, and it's giving the class name here, and then passing in the name of the function to use, in this case compare object. So that's simply what we're doing. So we have an A and a B, and we want to return str so string compare, and we're going to compare the name within A to the name within B. Okay, that finishes off that function. So at the moment what we have is when this object is created, the getTags function is called, it queries our database, it fills the tags array with all the information from the database, and it also sets the largest to the number of times the most popular tag has been used. And finally, it sorts the tag array by, it sorts it alphabetically by name. So just to give you a preview of what we've done so far, let's go, after this getTags call, I'm going to call print_r, and let's display this tags, and then let's simply exit. So let's go ahead and preview this. I'm going to open up index.php, and let's check line 29. It's in this file. You know what? I didn't fix that typo that we had in this query. So if you remember, post needs to be posts with an S at the end. Let's save this and preview. There we go. So that's the correct result that we're supposed to be looking for. Let's go back to tagcloud.model and clean this up slightly just so you can see it better. So I'm going to echo out pre-tag, which stands for pre-formatted. And then after the print_r function, I'm going to echo out a closing pre-tag. So saved, back to index, and let's refresh, and there we go. So you notice we have an array which contains multiple arrays which all contain an ID, a name, and a total. And you'll also notice that they're arranged alphabetically, so black, B starting first, and then all the way down to Y, yellow at the end. So we know everything there is working correctly. So let me go ahead, delete this, and let's get to work starting on the getTagList function. So this one, we want to first of all check to make sure we actually have tags to work with. So we're going to check this tags, and if it doesn't equal false, because remember there's a chance that if there are no tags we set it to false. If it doesn't equal false, we want to continue. Otherwise, let's return no tags to display. Okay. And since we're going to be reusing this code, I'm simply going to copy and paste it because tagcloud's going to use the exact same code. Okay, so within this section, see, don't need caps lock on. Within this section, we want to create a data variable, and I'm going to set it out to a blank variable to start with. And we want to display these tags in a table. So this is pretty straightforward. I'm just going to go through this as quickly as I can. So data, we're going to add table. And it's going to have a border of 1, cell padding of 10, so, and then we're going to add some headers. So we start our table row and add a table header for ID, and add a table header for the tag name, table header, excuse me, for the count, and finally a table header for the weight, which I'll again discuss in a minute. And finally close out the row. Okay. Now we want to use a loop to loop through each of our results. So we're going to do a for each. And we're going to loop through our tags array, and for each item within tags, we're going to loop through it as tag, like so. Let's skip the content within this for loop for a minute. After this for loop completes, we want to add the closing table, like so, and then we also want to then return the data. And you'll notice if you go back to index.php and look at the code, what we've done is when the get tag list is called, it takes the data that's returned and puts it within the data tag list variable, which will then get displayed within our view.